What we want to do today, really as quickly as we can, but to cover the topic, is to go through exactly what we have now discovered about this. Because there's this huge myth out there that your vote is safe, it's not connected to the internet, and let me tell you, today you're going to see that is absolutely, demonstrably, provably, totally false.
Well, you've proven that to me before, but now it seems like it's even more obvious for anyone who would dare look.
Correct. So if you recall, it was November 18, we saw some computer logs from the Dallas general election.
Right.
And we're not talking about bogus voter rolls, we're not talking about bogus voters, we're not even talking about polling station equipment being hacked. That's all voter fraud. Today we're talking about what happens once it gets to the central tabulation server. We are seeing that it is now downloaded someplace else with remote computing capability.
Wait, when you're saying downloaded someplace else, I go into the polling place, I mark my ballot, and I assume that it's collected on some media or device and then taken to the central counting.
That's generally true, but what you're seeing in 2018 at central counting is the guy for the election company who is running it with a laptop at central counting for days on end, connected to the internet, taking the laptop out, bringing it back the next day.
And you caught that. You proved that from the logs.
We saw that in the logs, and we have affidavits from people who watched him take a thumb drive and plug it into the central computer.
Okay.
So we'll talk to that briefly, but that is what we call election fraud as opposed to voter fraud.
Right.
So let me just run through what we found. First thing, we saw in the logs that absentee votes were entered, they were tabulated, they would print a report, then the votes were reset to 0 and reloaded from a new place.
Why do you need to do that?
Because you've changed the votes. We saw early voting, which, by the way, they played with for 4 days. Early voting was over on a Friday. The election was on the following Tuesday. Over that entire weekend, they were downloading, printing these results, changing them, and reloading them.
And you can see that from the logs.
We can see that from the logs.
Okay.
And then on election day itself, we saw a whole range of precincts actually get changed. It's a little harder on election day because you're having to do it in real time on election day because they're going to report it that night.
Right.
So we saw all that. So a loose assembly of cyber experts that we kind of know and deal with here and abroad started to map out the entire Dallas voting system that supposedly wasn't connected to the internet.
These are patriotic people that understand the cyber world.
Oh, they're very deep. They're ex-3-letter agency people. They've worked with SOCOM, the CIA, the NSA, all these people. They're very deep into this. And what you're seeing here are all the connections for DallasCountyVotes.org. And if you look at this thing, you see that this thing is connected to IP addresses all over the place. And how anyone in their right mind can say that this is air-gapped and not connected to the internet is just ludicrous. Just ludicrous.
It's a fraud being perpetrated on the American people.
And by the way,
nobody should be able, the sanctity of the vote. Nobody should be, I want my vote to be placed, I want my vote to be counted. I don't want other people looking at it.
Correct. That's all you want. So we sent these experts, and for 10 months, we took a very deep cyber look at what was going on with several companies. ES&S, Dominion, 10X, Hart, SGO Smartmatic, Demtech.
These are all the voting machine companies in the world.
Well, not all of them, but it's a good number of them.
Okay.
And what they found was absolutely incredible. In fact, if you want to see technically what they found and how easy it was to find it, it's in the 4th series that you and I did with Jekyll.